Welcome to our Care Compass project. This project is conducted quarterly and designed for those who are seeking training to learn about best practices in caregiving and those who realize the caregiving journey is inevitable and want to plan ahead. We welcome here today our topic on technology and its impact on caregiving. Caregivers need help. It's that simple. Sometimes help arrives in the form of relief from other family members or paid part-time help. But there's a growing number of home technologies to lighten the load on caregivers and ensure that loved ones are safe, as independent as possible, and getting the care they need. This presentation is presented by Carly Douch, OT from the Wood County Board of DD. Welcome, Carly.
Thank you. All right. So yes, I'm Carly Douch. I am the OT with the Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and there I do a lot with supportive technology. So I just put this slide in to show the similarities between the mission statement of the Wood County Committee on Aging and the Wood County Board of DD. So for the Wood County Committee on Aging, their goals are to empower individuals to remain independent and improve their quality of life. And then the same thing with the Wood County Board of DD, really to support, empower, and inspire people. So I thought that was a great comparison. So why technology? I apologize for that why being comment. Why technology? Because people want to age in place, right? We value our independence and we want to remain living in our homes for as long as possible. Technology is one way to help support people to meet and achieve that goal. It can help loved ones stay connected with individuals to ensure that they're safe and healthy. And it can provide additional care if in-person caregivers are hard to find, hard to keep, inconsistent, or maybe those in-person caregivers just need a break. So today I will talk about some of the specific ways technology can help, including for personal care, medication management, health management, mobility, staying safe, household chores, meals, and staying connected. So first, remote support services. Remote support services use technology to connect individuals with support staff. So there's a support staff who's able to help the person. They're just not physically there. They're at a remote location. And this uses live two-way communication devices, which is usually some sort of tablet or computer screen. Motion sensing systems, so motion sensors throughout the home, not cameras, not always cameras. Pressure or activity sensors, which can show if a person is up and out of their chair or up and out of bed. Video monitoring, which is not always used. That's actually one of the less common technologies that's used, but it's available. Audio monitoring, location detection, and more. And we'll go into some of those technologies on the next slide. All right, so hopefully this video plays okay. Not a great pause screen. Oh, there we go. Just had to load a little bit. Oh, no, that's okay. All right, so this video showcases the Twin Tech supportive technology model home that we have here in Wood County. Our previous location was in Perrysburg, Ohio, and since then, with the pandemic, we ended that lease and started and purchased a home in Bowling Green. So the new one will be up and running in Bowling Green. Yeah, if you click watch on YouTube, that should help you. That's okay.
Cozy Virgo Mountain Cabin with a kitchen where everyone can share. The thing I'll remember forever, watching the game together once again.
couple technical difficulties.
My name is Carly Douch, and I'm the occupational therapist with the Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities. I'm also the technology expert for a grant that we received in 2018 for remote support. So we're here today to showcase our twin tech remote support model home. So we're just going to do a quick walkthrough to give you an introduction of these.
I'm not sure why the audio was not lined up with the video there, so I'm hoping maybe pausing it might help it line back up. If not,
For a grant that we received in 2018 for remote support. So we're here today to showcase.
okay, so I'm just gonna talk over this. So what I was showing there was a video doorbell, and then there was a padlock on the key combination there. Inside the home, what I'm pointing to now is some motion sensors. So they're not cameras, they're just detecting motion throughout the home. And then here we have an Amazon Alexa, it's the Spot. So it has a small screen on it. I don't know why it's replaying. All right, we'll just skip the video. All right. So we will skip that, but what's in the home is some remote support services and also some assistive technology. So the technology I'll be talking about in the next slide, it's just all displayed in the home. So the home, like I said, will be in Bowling Green, Ohio, and it should be up and running by fall of 2022. So next year, we should have it all ready to go. We're currently doing some renovations to make sure that it's fully accessible for people to get in and out of. So the cool thing about that is that anyone in the community can come tour it. You can kind of see the technology, see how it works, try it out. So it gives you an opportunity to really see if it's something that you would be able to use and that you might like before you go out and purchase it. So it's a cool resource for the community. So assistive technology is then defined as any item, piece of equipment, software program, or product system that's used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities. So it's a really generic, very general definition, which I like because it shows that it encompasses really anything to help people be independent. So first I'll talk about some general assistive technology solutions. So first, smart home controls. So this can be things like using smart plugs, which anything with an on and off switch can be plugged into a smart plug. And then you can use things like an Alexa or a Google to turn things on and off, which can make them a little bit easier. Or you can set up routines with that as well. Your lights, your thermostat, really any appliance you can think of, your blinds, locks, really almost anything you can think of in your home, there's some sort of quote unquote smart option that can go with it, which can just make things a little bit easier and improve overall accessibility. And this includes not just physical physical accessibility needs, but also cognitive challenges. So let's say that the smart lock, for example, on your front door, maybe you can physically lock and unlock your door, but maybe cognitively you're having trouble remembering to do that. And so sometimes you leave the house and you leave the house unlocked. So having a smart option can allow you to then either use a smart device to check and make sure you locked it, or many of them automatically lock after 5 minutes. So if you leave, it's just gonna lock itself after 5 minutes, so you don't have to worry about it. Or someone else, maybe a neighbor or a family member, can also check too, just to make sure that the door is locked. And they could use their phone to lock the door. So it's some pretty cool technology. And even simple things like having a keypad lock instead of having to use a key. So the key sometimes, again, I lose my keys all the time. So maybe having a keypad instead could be something that you could use. And if you pair that with the video doorbell, let's say you forget what your key combination is, you could use the doorbell to talk to someone who has access to it to ask them, can you remind me what my keypad lock combination was? And they can remind you. So then smart speakers. So two examples would be the Alexa or the Google Home. Those are two pretty popular options. So those things can do things like reminders, calendars. You can ask general questions. They can play music, control some of those smart features I talked about, telling you the weather, making a list. So at home, for example, we use a routine, which means that we set up with our Google Home that we just say, "Good morning, Google." And then what happens is the lights turn on, the Google tells us the weather, and then it reminds us of any appointments we have that day because it's linked to our calendar. So all we have to do is remember to say good morning, and then all of those events happen to kind of give us reminders for the day, which can be really helpful. Remote support well checks. So that's using that remote support. So having a staff person who's at a remote location can call in and just check in on people. Make sure you're doing okay, that you haven't fallen, that you're not having any changes in your health or any issues. They just kind of call and check in. And then home-based sensors. So again, this is the things like the motion detection or the door sensors to know when the front door is open and closed, to know when people are coming and going, or pressure sensors on a wheelchair or a bed to know when someone is up and about. So those things can be monitored either by our remote support staff, or they can be monitored by a family member or neighbor or someone else in your life. Visual schedules, those can just be helpful for anyone to kind of remind you what you have going on for the day. And they can be used really in all aspects of daily life. Okay, so next looking at personal care. So bathtub or shower renovations. So never underestimate the power of taking a tub shower and turning that into maybe a step-in shower or just a roll-in shower that doesn't have any thresholds. That can help make a bathroom more accessible for someone. Soap dispensers. So again, think like the automatic soap that you might use in a public bathroom. They make those for shampoo and conditioner and body wash too. So again, that helps to make sure you're getting a good amount of soap and also takes away that need to pick up your shampoo bottle, flip it over, shake it, squeeze it, get the last drop out. Just makes it a little bit easier to get the soap to take your bath. Motion sensors. So motion sensors can be really good to use in the bathroom because it's not a video, so no one can see you, but they can make sure that there's not any unusual activity in the bathroom or if there's a lack of activity in the bathroom. So if there's been no movement in the bathroom for 20 to 30 minutes, that might be kind of alarming, right? Maybe you fell or fell asleep or something happened that you might want someone to check in on you. So those motion sensors can be nice. And those pictures at the bottom are from a company called Med4All. And what's really cool is they've taken technology, the first two pictures, it takes your body and makes it into a stick figure. So the middle picture is what someone would actually see. It's kind of hard to see, but it's just a stick figure. So again, it offers that privacy of not seeing you, maybe if you're not wearing clothing or if you're just hanging around your house. But what it can do is it can show us maybe your walking pattern starts to look a little bit abnormal, or maybe you're tripping or falling. It can kind of monitor that to make sure that you're safe in your home.
Okay, we got it. Thank you.
And then the other one is the heat pressure map. So that can then show where you're at, but offer some privacy so that if you're experiencing falls or having some issues with that, caregivers can monitor to make sure that you're okay. Fall detection pendants. So these are like notoriously the help I've fallen and I can't get up button, but they do so much more than that. So a lot of them, the pendant itself that you would wear as a lanyard can detect a fall. So just that abrupt movement of the pendant falling can detect if there possibly was a fall. They also can have GPS location in them. So if someone wanders and gets lost, you'd be able to find where they're at. And then you can also press the button to ask for help. And it doesn't have to be that you've fallen, but maybe you've gotten turned around and you need some help knowing how to get back home if you went on a walk, or maybe you have a medication question. That button can be connected right to a nurse, so they can answer some of those questions for you. And they're also typically waterproof. So you can wear them in the shower, which is important because that's a common area of falls. So that's good to know as well. Smart speakers, so again, your Alexa or your Google, those can be used in the bathroom too. The ones that don't have a camera, so that a caregiver could call in and say, you know, hey Carly, how's your shower going? You've been in there for a little while. And you could just verbally respond, yeah, it just feels good. You know, I'm doing well, I'm fine. Or you could respond, I've fallen and I need help. Or maybe if you don't respond, someone could then come check on you and make sure you're okay. So smart speakers can be a good option for that. They can also provide some cues or some prompts. So if maybe there's something that you're forgetting to do, the speaker could kind of prompt you when they're in there. And then the smart speakers could be used for other types of personal care as well. So at night, you could use them in conjunction with night lights or with white noise to help you sleep a little bit better. And then with cooking is another really cool way to use smart speakers. So if you use some that have the screen, you can ask for different recipes. So maybe show me a pumpkin pie recipe. It'll bring up the recipe and then it will walk you through the steps of how to cook it, including video and pictures. It also pulls up the ingredients that you'll need. And with one click of a button, you can add those ingredients to a shopping list. And then if you get really fancy, you can order those groceries right from Amazon, have them delivered to your house. So you could have it all kind of set up as a package. But regardless, a really easy way to make lists for sure. So there's a lot of fun things you can do with smart speakers. Bidets. So again, a lot of people giggle when I say that, but bidets are attached to your toilet and they spray water to help you with hygiene after going to the bathroom. We recommend those all the time because wiping can be difficult, whether it's reaching back to find, to wipe, or just wiping thoroughly, or the bending forward, throwing you off balance. There's a lot of things that could happen, when you're going to the bathroom. So the bidets can be a really good option to help you clean yourself a little bit easier. Universal cuffs are just simple straps that can help you hold on to utensils. They just go around your hand. They can be attached to anything: toothbrush, hairbrush, razor, spoon, fork. Liftwear, lift steady. So the bottom picture there on the right is the liftwear. So what's cool about that is the spoon itself stays steady, even when you're lifting and bringing it, or it stays level. So even when you're lifting it and bringing it to your mouth, the spoon will always stay flat. So it keeps the food on the spoon. So if you're noticing that you're bringing the spoon up to your mouth and you're losing food on the way, that can be one solution. The steady version is specifically for tremors. So if you're noticing some increasing shakiness as you get older, due to a variety of reasons, it again keeps that spoon level so that you can keep more food on the spoon as you bring it to your mouth. The OB robot and the meter eater, the top picture there is the OB robot. So that's super cool. It's activated by two switches. One switch moves the spoon to the different bowls of food. The other switch brings the spoon to your mouth. So again, if you're having trouble feeding yourself, this can offer some independence. Super fancy schmancy and expensive, but could be worth it if that means that you're able to feed yourself independently. And I would guess that as they become more popular, the price will go down just like everything else. I'm sure when Alexas and Googles first came out, they were really expensive because they were the new and exciting thing. But now they're relatively affordable. So I think the same thing will happen with this other technology. Again, looking at automatic soap, paper towels, faucets, all those things you see in public bathrooms, they make them for residential use as well. So those things can kind of help make it easier when you start to lose some of that fine motor control. Sleep trainer clocks can be really helpful. You can set them so that the lights change when it's time to get ready for bed. And then maybe it turns to a certain light during sleep. And then in the morning, it turns to maybe a bright yellow to wake you up. So that can be really helpful to kind of remind you when it's nighttime and to kind of stay in bed. Motion activated lights. So motion activated lights, I always recommend to kind of light up your way to the bathroom, right? So if at night you have to go to the bathroom, when you get up, there can be lights close to the floor that automatically turn on. So they light your way so you can see where you're going. And then finally, pressure sensors. So on a chair or a bed, just knowing when you're up and moving, whether that's a good thing or maybe a bad thing that you've fallen out of bed or fallen out of the chair. Okay, so next, we'll be looking at health management. So the biggest thing with that I always get the most questions about are medication boxes or dispensers. There's a whole variety of options out there. There's your very simple ones that just allow you to separate your pills by day. You can go up a step further that they will alarm when you set that you need to take your meds. So maybe you take your meds at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. You could set some alarms on there. And then they go a step further with the 3 that are pictured here. So the top one is a MedMinder box where each box is its own pill time. So you can see Sunday through Saturday across the top, and then 4 options. So this person maybe takes medications 4 times a day. So each box is its own separate. You can set it so that all the boxes are locked except for the one you're supposed to be taking. So that way you know you're taking the right one. That one box can light up, the top will kind of pop open so you know which one you're taking. And then the box itself can sense when you've lifted it up. So it knows that you have lifted that medication and hopefully have taken it. If you need a step further, you can pair that with video to watch the person take their medication to make sure they're not just throwing it over their shoulder, right? They're putting it in their mouth and taking it. So that's kind of a really high-tech option. You don't have to lock them, but that could be. Then as you move down to the next one, that's a lower tech option. There's 14 boxes there. So if you take medicine twice a day, you could have a week filled up. And what happens is the box itself will rotate and turn to the box that you're supposed to be taking. So that first box is probably we'll say Monday at 8 a.m. The second box is Monday at 8 p.m. The third box is Tuesday at 8 a.m. The box itself knows which one it's supposed to rotate to. And then the box can sense when you flip it upside down so that you're taking it. So again, that can help to monitor. So it keeps data in the background of if you've missed any medications, which missing it would mean you never flipped it over. So then it knows, okay, the medicine wasn't taken out of there. So that's another example. Again, that one can be locked. So if you don't want anyone unscrewing it and taking any medications out, you can lock it up with a special screw and it will only rotate when it needs to be rotated. Then the final one is the Priya, which is super fancy schmancy. So you can't see any medications, but they're all inside there behind her face. And they will just plop out and be dispensed into that little cup when it's time. So whenever it's time, your medications pop out, you take the cup, take them, and you've taken your meds. She also has some smart speaker features built in. So I think she has Alexa built in, so you can ask her questions. There also is a camera, so if maybe a caregiver wants to watch you take your meds to make sure you're taking them, they could call in and watch you take your medication. So there's all kinds of options, and they sound really fancy, but really the person using it, all you need to know is your meds are going to be there when you need them, and someone can hopefully help you set it up. And oftentimes, especially for the top one, pharmacies, you can set it up so a pharmacy sends you the squares. So you're not even putting the medications into those squares. Every month, you're just going to get your squares, put them in the box, if that makes sense. The other two, you do typically have to fill yourself or have someone help you fill it. Continuous glucose monitor, so that's really cool. That is just a little patch. If you can see in the bottom picture with the 2 phone screens, that little patch on the bottom that has a purple outline, that patch is attached to your skin. And then you can set the glucose monitor to take your glucose reading every so often, every 5 minutes, every hour, every 3 hours, whatever you need it to be. And then it just sends the reading right to your phone and to the device. Now you can take that a step further, and maybe if you need insulin, you can have an insulin pump so that if the glucose monitor measures a certain threshold, your pump is unactivated and gives you insulin. So it can be a really easy way to kind of keep track of your levels without having to do a whole lot. The patches stay on for like 10 days, they say, and then you put on a new patch. And it stays on for 10 days literally because of the stickiness. So it may fall off after 10 days or maybe before then. So you could have caregivers attached to this too. So if maybe your threshold is super, super low, it will send them a text message or a phone call to call 911 that, you know, your level is low or really high or whatever. Smartwatches, they're so advanced these days. They have a lot of things that you can monitor right in a smartwatch. So like an Apple Watch or Galaxy, there's all kinds that they can monitor for seizures, fall detection, your oxygen, your heart rate, how many steps you've taken. So all of those things can be monitored just by wearing a watch. So pretty cool stuff. All right, mobility. So this one's pretty straightforward. Your canes, your walkers, your wheelchairs, transfer aids, ramps. Porch lifts is where you start to get a little bit more fancy. It's a lift. If maybe a ramp isn't an option, a lift could take you from the ground level up into the house. Stair climbers and lifts. So again, a chair that you would sit on that can take you up or down the stairs. Ceiling track lifts are lifts where there's a track literally installed in the ceiling, and that can help transfer an individual from maybe their bed to their chair or to their shower. Mobile lifts are just like a Hoyer kind of pump lift, except for it uses a remote. So it makes it a little bit easier on everyone. Automatic door openers, again, those are more readily available than you might think. So the one in the picture there is called the U-Control. Just attaches right to the bottom of the door, and then you use a remote to open and close the door. Only really intended for internal doors, but a good solution if maybe you're having trouble opening and closing doors. Is it battery operated? I think it is. Yes. Probably like the rechargeable kind, not the, I would imagine that would need like some serious battery power. So those are options there. Staying safe. So again, those smart locks or lock alternatives. So you could have a keypad, you could have a fingerprint scanner, so you don't have to remember anything, just scan your thumb. You could have a facial scanner, so you just look at it. And again, this sounds really high tech, like stuff you see in the movies, but you'd be surprised how readily available they really are. Hardwired smoke detectors and carbon monoxide. So if you hardwire them in your home, they can automatically contact emergency services. Strobe lights and bed shakers, those are great for people who might have a hearing impairment. If their smoke detector or carbon monoxide goes off, you can pair it with a strobe light or a bed shaker to shake the bed to wake someone up. So good for hearing impairment or if they're just a really heavy sleeper. Emergency response pendants, so I touched on those before. That's that pendant you'd wear around your neck that you could press the button and ask for help. It could detect falls. Motion, pressure, contact sensors and cameras, we talked about all of that. GPS and geofencing. So there's all kinds of devices, whether it be a pendant, something you clip on your clothes, you put in your pocket, a watch that has GPS, which means that you can find the location of a person. Geofencing means that you can open up a Google map basically, and you can set a parameter of this is the safe zone. So maybe you're safe to go walk in your neighborhood, but if you leave the neighborhood, then it's kind of concerning. So you can set up that safe zone. And once the person leaves the safe zone, a caregiver is notified that, hey, maybe check in. Typically the device will have two-way communication then. So they could literally just call the device and say, hey, where are you going? You know, and you could kind of respond and talk to them. Video doorbells. So the bottom picture is just to show there's a ton of options out there. Video doorbells are really great to just be able to check and not have to get up to see who's at the door or have to open the door to see who's there. You know, most doors don't have peepholes. So you do have to kind of open the door or say, who is it? You know, so the video doorbell allows you to see that before opening the door. You can use that on your phone, a tablet, or if you have a smart speaker with a screen, it can come up on there and show you who's at the door. And you wouldn't have to do anything. As soon as they press the button or if motion is activated, it would just pop up their picture of who's at the door. Then you can talk through it if you want. If you want to just talk through and say, go away, you know, or leave the package and run, you know, whatever you want to say to them, you can say it through the speaker without having to get up and answer the door. Elopement systems are really a combination of all the other things, you know, just detecting if someone's up and out of bed, if they're wandering, if they've left the house and maybe they're unsafe to do so. You can kind of put the technology together to monitor that. Household chores. So really cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, all those home management tasks can be so much easier with smart appliances. There's like everything out there. So for example, your washer and your dryer, I wish I had this, mine are in the basement. So if you have a smart one, you could just ask your Alexa, is the dryer done yet? And you know, she can say no or yes. Instead of me having to like open my basement door and listen really hard, is that the furnace or the dryer? So there's all kinds of smart appliances, the vacuums or the mop robots. So they literally just go around your floor. Again, a dream. I wish I had these things that could just mop my floors without any effort on my end. Smart home controls and speakers, I think I've touched on those. Grocery pickup or delivery. So, you know, one positive out of the pandemic is how easy it is now to get your groceries for pickup or delivery, just like that. So I recommend that for people all the time. It takes away having to go to the store, remember what you're there for, buy all the extra stuff you don't need because you're hungry and it looks delicious. Just a good way to go. Label readers are cool. They can just help you read labels if you maybe have a visual impairment. Fridge cam is cool. It's literally a camera that goes in your refrigerator. So if you go to the grocery store and you think, did I need milk or did I not need milk? You can open up the camera, look in your fridge and see how full your milk gallon is. And then Genie Can is also a really cool thing. It attaches right to your trash can. So when you're throwing something away, you can scan it as you're throwing it away and it'll add it to your grocery list. So I've just used the last of the ketchup, so I'm gonna scan it. Again, you're at the grocery store and you think, did I use the last of the ketchup? You would know because it's right on your list. So a lot of these things make it easier to not even have to remember to put it on your list, right? I know I'm running short on time, so I'm trying to go a little bit quicker here. So for meals, finger and hand protection for cutting, you know, just simple gloves and stuff that can help you from cutting yourself. The rocker knife is up in the top picture, just allows you to rock the knife back and forth to cut things instead of having the coordination of using like a fork and a knife. Liquid level detector attaches right to a cup. So as you're pouring your liquid, it'll beep once it gets toward the top. So again, if you have a visual impairment or it's hard for you to tell how full the cup is, that can help. Audible measuring cups. So as you're pouring in your milk and you only want a cup, it will say 1 cup once you've reached a cup. So if it's getting harder to read the labels on that measuring cup, that can be helpful. One touch or automatic faucets, pull down shelves. That's the bottom picture on the right. So it's a shelving unit that you can literally pull down to make it easier for you to reach things. One touch can openers. Again, you just press a button and it opens your can. Kettle tipper is that middle picture. So you could put a kettle or a milk jug or any type of jug in there. You literally just strap it in with Velcro. And then all you do is use that handle to tip it. So you're not having to control a big gallon of milk and holding your cup. You can use that. Smart appliances, induction cooktop or range, so they're not hot to the touch. So if you're having maybe some sensory impairment and you can't really tell if things are hot in your fingers, if you touch an induction, it's not going to be hot to the touch. It uses induction to cook the food. Smart speakers, again, I think I've said everything about them. Mostly recipes and adding to your shopping list are super convenient. So then finally, staying connected. So a C-pen reader or similar device, that's literally a pen you can run over text and it will read out loud to you. So again, if it's getting harder to read, harder to see that smaller print, there's devices out there that can help. Smart watches are sometimes just easier than having to use a smartphone. You can still make video calls or phone calls or send or receive text using a smartwatch, just less steps than using a smartphone. Smart speakers, again, you can call from speaker to speaker. So if you have an Alexa and then maybe a family member, a granddaughter in Florida has a smart speaker, you can call Alexa to Alexa and video chat and see each other. And Alexa is just one example, there's a ton. Smartphones, tablets, or computers. So the GrandPad is a really cool option. It's a very simple tablet. It has large button options for calling, either video or phone, email, photos and camera, music, news, and games. You don't get any spam or robocalls or scam calls on there, which is nice. And it's very easy to use with simple navigation, colorful, large buttons, and it has live support 24/7. So if you have a question or need help, you can hit the support button and they can help you figure out how to use it. But it's a really nice tablet option to kind of stay connected with loved ones. Finally, the benefits of remote or of supportive technology, I think they speak for themselves, but increased independence, maximizing your safety, monitoring and capturing trends in health and well-being. So things like bathroom use, sleep, seizures, all of those things can be tracked for better management of your health, social emotional connection, enhanced team support, peace of mind for caregivers and families knowing you're safe in your home, less dependence on physical staff, increased support during difficult to staff times. If you can't find a physical staff person, you could utilize technology instead. And lessening the workforce shortage. So as we all know, there's shortages everywhere, and that's hugely impacted in the caregiver world for people. So technology can help hopefully lessen that a little bit. But the final slide is just my contact information. So, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. If you're interested in seeing Twin Tech once it's up and running again, please send me an email. Anyone and everyone can come. And even obviously, if you don't have a developmental disability, I'm still more than happy to answer your questions or help you. You can reach out anytime, and I'd be happy to show you some things or send you some options. So thank you so much for your time and for having me. And I hope this is helpful.
Good. Let me just open it up to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and switch out her slides. Did anyone on our online platform have any questions? You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to do that. Did you have any questions, Donna? No.
A lot of information.
That is, yes, it was wonderful information. So thank you, Carly. And it looks like we are ready to begin with our next session. So we appreciate everything that you've provided with us today. We're going to go ahead and continue with our training today. And our next topic is managing visits during the holidays. The holiday season can cause mixed feelings for a family affected by chronic diseases or cognition loss. While typically a time for celebration, families may experience a sense of loss for the way things used to be. For caregivers, the holidays may create added work. By adjusting your expectations and modifying some traditions, you may find meaningful ways to celebrate holidays. Today we have with us Salli Bollin, the Executive Director of MemoryLane Care Services, a nonprofit organization providing respite and supportive services to families caregiving for older adults and individuals living with memory impairment. Salli has a master's degree in social work and a certificate in aging from the University of Michigan, a bachelor's degree in social work from the University of Toledo. She has practiced as a social worker in long-term care, hospital, mental health, and community-based settings. Salli has experience delivering respite care services, implementing and evaluating evidence-based programs, served in leadership roles in nonprofit organizations, and as an advocate for caregivers and older adults. In her free time, she enjoys spending time with her family, traveling, gardening, and perfecting traditional family recipes. We also have with us today Jennifer Wagner. Jennifer is a licensed nursing home administrator in the state of Ohio since 1996, a certified long-term care ombudsman associate 2 since 2005, and a Medicare counselor for the Ohio Senior Health Services Insurance Information Program since 2013. Jennifer has spent the past 20 years at BGSU as a self-proclaimed jack of all trades, master of all paperwork. She began her career at BGSU as the Geriatric Education Center Coordinator and added in teaching responsibilities over the years. When the GEC grant ended, she became the Continuing Education Coordinator for the college. Currently, Jennifer is an assistant practitioner professor who teaches undergrad and graduate courses in gerontology and long-term care administration. Jennifer oversees the student internships and is a liaison with the state and national licensure boards for the long-term care administration. Jennifer serves as a member of the National Association of Long-Term Care Administrators Boards, As a member of the NAB, Jennifer has been an item writer for the Federal Nursing Home Administrator Licensure Exam and is a continuing education program reviewer, academic accreditation site reviewer, and voting member of the Education Committee. She's also a member of the American College of Healthcare Administrators. Prior to joining BGSU, Jennifer held positions as a nursing home administrator in hospital-based and freestanding nursing homes and as the executive director of a multi-purpose senior center. Please welcome Salli and Jennifer.
Thank you for the introduction. And I apologize, I didn't realize I didn't have myself on mute and got a kick out of. I've known Jennifer a long time and she's much more than a master of paperwork. So that's funny. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. I'm sorry I couldn't be at the senior center, but I'm happy to be here on Zoom. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then midstream I will switch it over to Jennifer. So can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Between Jennifer and I, there are no known conflicts of interests. And so we just put that in our slides, and so we can go to the next slide after that. Thank you. So today, Jennifer and I will talk a little bit about stressors that caregivers often face around the holiday time. I think that we all experience stress around the holidays. There are some unique circumstances that caregivers experience who are caring for family members that we'll talk about. We'll talk about some different types of interventions you could potentially use to alleviate that stress, and also talk about some meaningful and fun ways to interact with individuals you might be caring for during the holidays as well. Next slide, please. So the impact of the holidays, I think, the holidays are a time that are roller coasters for all of us. And particularly when we're caregiving, it can be a joyful time for people. Certainly, I think we talk a lot about holiday stress, but there are some real positives with the holidays, just like many other things throughout the year. So holidays can be a joyful time. I think it's certainly important to recognize that emotions often run high during the holidays. People often report feelings of love and happiness and high spirits and joy, as well as stress. So recognizing, there's good and bad that can be attached to that. Holidays also offer us an opportunity to potentially connect or reconnect with family members, friends, and neighbors. So it gives us a time to reconnect with people. It allows us often a time to celebrate traditions and rituals, which is part of what makes each of us the unique people that we are. So holidays can play a role in that. And so I think it's important to recognize that as well. So there are definitely some positives with holidays that come along, but it also for caregivers can provide additional layers of stress. So I think it's important to recognize that as well too, and sometimes can create feelings of sadness and grief and disappointment. And so sometimes it's important to recognize that because sometimes if you don't, you may not realize that what you're experiencing is, it can be a normal part of the holiday stress that people experience. So Jennifer and I wanted to point a little bit that out because I think sometimes, thinking about it ahead of time can maybe then help you plan to cope with some things that might be occurring. Next slide, please. So one of the things we also recognize that during the holidays, there's lots of competing and influencing factors. And I think sometimes when you're in such a whirlwind or there's so much going on, sometimes it's hard to take a step back and realize, holy cow, there's a lot that happened today, or there's a lot that happened this past month. And so recognizing that that can sometimes help you then work through and cope with some of the stress or some of how to manage the holidays as best as you can. So we recognize that there's increased busyness associated with holidays. Oftentimes people are working longer hours. There's often increased traffic around the holidays, so it takes twice as long to get through the store or to get down the road because there's more people out and about. Sometimes people are paying more bills around the holidays and worrying about money. They might be stretched for time. Sometimes just the responsibility of gift giving can be stressful for people. Sometimes it can be really fun and joyful, but other times it can be stressful too. Sometimes for family caregivers, they feel a duty or a responsibility to make the holidays the best as possible for their families. And so that can be a wonderful experience, but it also can be a stressful experience too. So just recognizing that. And certainly we know, because we're still living in the COVID-19 pandemic, that it has changed our holidays. It changed them last year. It's most likely going to change them this year too, and can make things a little bit more difficult. What you might have done previously, you can't do anymore. And certainly there's always some unexpected in regards to with COVID, that your plans can change very quickly. Case in point, today I had planned on coming, but we had a COVID exposure at work. And so for safety reasons, I stayed back because, you know, I wanted to keep everyone safe. So just recognizing all of this and maybe thinking through it ahead of time can really help make your visits and your holiday interactions hopefully the best and possible for people. Next slide, please. We also know that the impact of holidays can be sometimes more stressful on women. So I'm not trying to generalize and say it doesn't impact men or other genders, but it is important to recognize that. So often women take the responsibility to take charge of the holiday celebrations. They often are the ones who are in charge of preparing all the meals. They may shoulder most of the burden of the holiday shopping or decorating the home. And so sometimes it's harder for women to relax around the holidays, and they might fall into some habits to manage their stress, such as comfort eating. I know I tend to be a stress eater, so you know, that's something to think about, or drinking too much alcohol. And so just thinking about what might be impacting you and ways to alleviate that stress can be helpful if you can think through it in advance. Next slide, please. We also know that there's a higher impact on individuals with lower to middle income. So the weight from balancing multiple responsibilities and time constraints between work and families can put stress on seasonal activities as well. Sometimes financial stresses and strains can be a little bit more burdensome, or the buildup of credit card debt this time of year because of the need to buy gifts. And sometimes too, the stress of keeping up with others, maybe your family, your neighbors, your friends. And certainly there is some pressure with commercialism. I know on Sunday, which was Halloween, I went to the store to pick up a few things, and they already had out the Christmas candy and the Christmas cards. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get through Halloween yet before I even can get onto this next holiday. And so, you know, the commercialism pressure is there, even sometimes subtly, if you don't realize it. So. Next slide, please. So recognizing with caregiving in the holidays that the time between Thanksgiving and New Year's is often a very stressful time. There's been numerous studies out there that have talked about this can be a very stressful time when you're caregiving for elderly relatives, a spouse, and that recognizing too that sometimes during the holidays, this stress can be coupled with sometimes families getting together can be a wonderful experience, but it sometimes can also sometimes bring up old wounds. So thinking about, okay, how can I divert that? Sometimes for family members who maybe have not been around, family members can be critical of a caregiver's the job that they're doing. So they, particularly we hear this a lot of times from people who might be coming in from out of town for a week or so, and they can be very critical, which is very stressful for the caregivers who are there, you know, 12 months out of the year. Other family members' schedules often become tight too. So trying to balance getting together can become very difficult and can cause a stressor for caregivers. Care routines can be disrupted during the holidays. Oftentimes caregivers and the individuals they're caring for have a routine, and that routine is helpful to maintain health and well-being, and the holidays can kind of throw a curveball in that. And so just, trying to maybe think about the routine and what's important to stick to can be helpful as we work through the holidays. Sometimes people experience grief and loss because the person they're caring for has lost some of their skills or abilities. So the holidays as they used to be are no longer. So that's a sadness, or their health status doesn't allow them to participate in things. And so recognizing that's a loss that people experience, both for the person as well as the person who's caregiving, for the person who's being cared for as well as the person who's caregiving. And sometimes too, if you've lost a family member during the year, and so their presence of no longer being at any type of holiday activities is certainly a loss to recognize, and maybe figure out ways to still celebrate that person or incorporate them into your holiday activities. Sometimes previous family traditions can no longer continue. And that's something that can cause stress for family members. Jennifer's going to talk about, maybe ways to substitute that or find new holidays, but just recognizing that is an important step in managing your stress. And with COVID, I think we'll be seeing this again, similar to last year, is the ability to get together in larger groups might be restricted or limited, or might have to change suddenly if someone becomes sick. So recognizing and kind of building that flexibility into family gatherings is something to think about too. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about some issues that families have experienced over the last year or may experience this year as well. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, who I believe is at the Senior Center, and to talk about some possible ideas.
Okay, so some suggestions for managing the holidays. One of the big things for us is to plan ahead, but having that plan, having that calendar, also be prepared to throw it away. Flexibility is key here. I know I'm a very type A, very, it's got to be my way or the highway kind of thing, but having that plan in place gives you a little bit of comfort, gives you some stability, but things change, throw it out. You might have to throw it out, you might have to adapt. In planning ahead, we should create a holiday to-do list, not to just give ourselves this big checklist to do, but it gives us a sense of control, but it also gives the person that we're caring for a little bit of control. So if we create a calendar in partnership with our care recipient, maybe one day we'll create holiday cards today. Another day we bake cookies, another day we tackle decorations, or we wrap presents. Creating a to-do list allows them to be just as involved as we are, and gives us a little bit of sense of control, a little bit of sense of normalcy. Another thing that we can do is create a gift list of activities, and this kind of goes with the last bullet here of accepting help. I know for me, that's really hard. I'm a mom, even though my kids are in college, I still think I need to be there. I teach full-time, I'm a full-time family caregiver myself. But I get memes all the time from my friends that say, if you don't pick a day to relax, your body's going to pick it for you. And several years ago, I was taking care of my mom who had Lou Gehrig's disease. I ended up in the hospital with pneumonia. So you need to ask for help. You can't be Wonder Woman, you can't be Superman. At some point, your body's going to pick a day to relax, and it's not going to be convenient, and then you're going to be asking for all sorts of help. So create that gift list. Put together your support network. When people call and say, I'm going to Kroger's, can I get you anything? They want to help. They've already made the offer. It's not a burden. It's not as if you're calling saying, hey, I've got 20 things I need you to get at Kroger's. They're asking to help, and maybe they feel like it's a burden for them to come visit you. You might not feel good, you're tired. So this way they feel like they're helping, and they get in a little bit of visiting as well. So take advantage when they say, I'm running to Walmart, I'm running to the store. Can I get you anything? Say yes. It's really hard to do, and I know it's been hard for me to do, but it's just something we need to do. And plus, it gives your care recipient a new person to look at. They get tired of it. I know, I take care of a family member. I'm pretty sure she's tired of looking at me all the time. So I'm always excited when my kids come home from college, other family members. I'm like, someone new to look at because I'm running out of stories to tell or something. So put together a support network, and that support network doesn't have to be doctors, nurses, therapists, professional caregivers. Think about your neighbors. For me in my caregiving situation, my neighbors are a godsend. It's trash day for us today. So if it's windy, the neighbors will see the trash can out there. They'll bring it in for us because they know that we're not going to get there till later, that, the family member I take care of, they can't go outside and get the trash. We've had down tree limbs at times. They've come over before we even get home from work. We see this nice, neat little cut up pile there of all the wood, and we get to use it as a bonfire later. Other people have popped over with just cookies or coffee or meals. So, don't just think about professional caregivers, neighbors, sometimes neighbors are better than family because you get to pick your friends and neighbors, family. And like Salli had mentioned, we have some old wounds there, neighbors less judgmental unless, your dog is in the yard or something. But maintain that caregiver health and well-being. Like I said, I ended up in the hospital with pneumonia. That's probably not the best place to be during the holidays or especially during COVID. Give permission to say no or not celebrate the holidays. And Salli alluded to this a little bit. There's all sorts of things going on with the people that we care for. They could be going through chemo or radiation. They could be going through dialysis. They could be long haulers of COVID. There's so many things. It's okay to cut back. It's okay to say no, not today. It's okay to celebrate Thanksgiving a week later. I remember at one time, another family member was going through chemo, and he knew exactly how many days post chemo that he would be really sick and not feeling well. So we scheduled Thanksgiving before that because we knew that on Thanksgiving he wasn't going to be feeling well. So we've kind of scheduled holidays in my family over there around chemo or different radiation. So it's okay to celebrate on different days or just say no or scale back. Consider the visits and celebrations, smaller numbers of people. I know in my family, we have 4 generations on one side of my family, and it's like 30 people. And it was no big deal back in the day. When we had little kids, it looked like Toys R Us blew up in the house. It was great, but not so great now, and especially with COVID, because we do have to be very mindful of, compromised people or people that even haven't been out of the house a whole lot. They're not used to the assault from all the germs out in public anymore. So now we just brought all these kids with strep and hand, foot, and mouth and all this other fun stuff besides COVID into the house. So, and I think too, breaking the visits up, it allows for a better interaction with the older adults because, you're used to 30 people in the house and everybody's doing things, everybody's having different conversations. My father-in-law used to take his hearing aid out. He's like, too much feedback, too much noise. And so if you wanted to speak to him, you needed to touch him or dad, and then he put his hearing aid back on. But sometimes the older adults that we're caring for, they're just there. They're not interacting. They're seeing the fun, they're seeing the chaos. But so many times I've had family members tell me, I wish I could have spoken to her. I wish I could have gotten to talk more. And especially someone that has hearing issues or someone who's had a stroke, has aphasia, has trouble finding words. They don't, when they speak, the whole family tends to go, Grandma's speaking. And then they all stare. And then you get really nervous. And then you get more tongue-tied and have trouble trying to find those words. So having smaller families where you can have quality conversations instead of just, chaos can be fun, but, you don't get the same quality visit that you would if you had smaller numbers and maybe, smaller amounts of time. If someone hasn't seen our family member or their friend in a while, holiday notes are very helpful, brief updates on their health status. It can be kind of unnerving for, a family member who swoops in from out of town, comes to visit for a couple of weeks at holidays, and they didn't know that mom couldn't get to the bathroom or was having trouble finding words or realized that there's bills piled up. I remember when my mom had Lou Gehrig's disease, one of the things that was really unnerving for family members was they would come at mealtime because, everybody's sociable. You got to have a meal. You can't just come visit. You got to have food, coffee, drinks. But we had to feed my mom. And so it was like, oh, I didn't know she had to be fed, things like that. And so we had to allow more time and things like that. So letting family members know in advance so that they're not surprised and they're not shocked and they don't show that emotion to the older because they're very self-conscious of it as well. So, giving people sort of a heads up, respects not only that person, but the elder that we're caring for as well. I know wearing masks and getting vaccines, it can be very political, but as a public health person, it's an evidence-based infection control practice, regardless of whether you're on one end or the other of the political spectrum. We know that masking works. And sometimes our care recipients, they see a few of us. They see husband, wife, a couple of grandkids. But then at the holidays, we've got the whole world there. And there's a lot of times, especially at big family gatherings, I will put out a little box of masks and I will put out hand sanitizer. And when we have family get-togethers, I'll send out the group text saying, okay, I know everyone's coming over today. Please be sure to wear a mask and wash your hands. That way you're not having that confrontation when they walk in the door, instead of going, okay, I'll just wait till they get here and then I'm going to tell them they have to wear a mask and then it's going to be this whole scene. Tell them in advance. And just say it's expected, mom, grandma, dad, aunts, uncles, they're immunocompromised. Even if they've been vaccinated, what we see in the nursing homes is a lot of breakthrough cases, immune overload, and especially with so many people. And it might not even be COVID. It could be, whatever germs kids pick up in the school besides COVID. So it's okay to ask people to wear a mask. It's okay to ask them to wash their hands. It's also okay to ask for respite help. We can get respite in a variety of ways. Area Agencies on Aging, Area Office on Aging of Northwest Ohio has some respite, some caregivers, some volunteer services, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, hospices also have some respite services that are available. Holidays are kind of at a premium, so if you're thinking that you might need some help at the holidays, go ahead and book those services, because right now they're very busy, and especially with COVID, they are even busier right now. But it's okay it goes back to plan your support network. It's okay to ask for help. If you need to go to the grocery store to plan your Thanksgiving dinner, it's okay to ask an adult grandkid or even a high school grandkid, come visit, come sit with grandma, to get the extra help that you need. And explore services, not just from doctors, hospitals, but the senior center here has a number of people who are happy to talk to you about information referral, help you with different Meals on Wheels programs, home care centers, hospices, nursing homes. A lot of folks have sort of a wish list, or Salvation Army has different services that are available. A lot of faith-based organizations will have Christmas meal baskets, Easter meal baskets, things like that. Different Christmas giving trees at different organizations. So feel free to reach out. I mean, I know sometimes people feel that there's a stigma attached to that, but that's what they're there for. That's why those organizations exist. This is what they want to do. It makes them feel good to be able to help others. So one of the things that you can do to help the older adult you're caring for is keep a log of holiday activities. One thing to keep a calendar and say, okay, we're going to do cards today, we're going to make cookies today, but kind of keep a log and then take pictures. Keep your own sort of video diary or your own little reminiscence book. Today we made cookies and this many people were here, and here's some pictures. And so we can go back and we can use those as great reminiscence tools even after the holidays. Plan an activity that can be shared and done together. And I kind of pair that with think ahead and share a funny or warm story. Think about when we've been asked to go to baby showers or wedding showers, and people always ask, bring your favorite recipe, give some advice for the bride and groom, bring some advice for the new parent. We can kind of plan those things together, that if we're having a holiday get together, bring your favorite recipe that grandma used to make, or bring your favorite holiday decoration that dad always used to hang out. And so we can kind of put those things together, or bring your favorite picture or your favorite holiday video, and we can have fun, we can reminisce, but at the same time we can create new activities together. Keep in mind though that while we're creating these activities, maybe everyone sat around the Christmas tree and decorated, but maybe now we need a much smaller tree. We're used to that big tree that we go out and we get at the tree farm. Maybe we need a smaller tabletop. Okay, you need to pair things out, or maybe we have a big one in another room, but we have a smaller one that our older adult can help with, and they're not as overwhelmed with big tree, lots of ornaments, kind of thing. But reminiscence, it's amazing. Sometimes that short-term memory is not there. We forget what we had for breakfast. Heck, I forget what I did before I came to the senior center this morning. But I can remember my kids, their first, their seconds, and various holidays, things like that. While we're doing that reminiscing, use a multisensory approach, but kind of like when we're working with small kids who might be on the spectrum with autism or ADHD, sometimes working with older adults with cognitive impairments, sensory overload is a little too much. So if we're baking cookies, maybe we don't need to have, our favorite gingerbread cookies baking while we have scented pine candles and, all these other things. Maybe 1 scent at a time is good. Maybe we have lights, but maybe they're not twinkling. Sometimes that can upset people with the lights, and also could be a seizure trigger or a migraine trigger with some people. So maybe, working on sensory, because, taste, smell, touch remind us of things. But keep in mind, we don't want too many touches, too many scents, too many tastes. Gets a little bit too much. And because my background is that of a long-term care administrator, and we might have our family members, they might be in facilities and nursing homes, assisted living, hospices, hospitals. Keep in mind that we all have different rules. We watch the news, we hear Governor DeWine, is changing this rule or that rule. But keep in mind, there's a lot more rules over hospitals and nursing homes from the Joint Commission, the Department of Health, from the Centers for Medicare, Medicaid, CDC, a whole alphabet soup of people that tell each different entity, you're going to follow this rule, you're going to follow that rule, you're going to follow another. So one hospital may allow 2 visitors at a time, another one may allow 1. They may restrict the hours. Nursing home hospitals, same thing. If there's an active COVID case, they may have to shut down for visitation for a certain length of time, and that length of time changes all the time. At first it was 14 days, and it could be 10 days, it could be 5 days. It's one of those, just what I tell my students all the time, it depends. But one of the things that you, as a family caregiver, most nursing homes, most assisted livings allow what's called a compassionate care visit. So that's a key term, that when you're having trouble seeing a loved one, or you're afraid that they're declining, or maybe they sound a little more down than usual, you need to use that phrase with the admissions or the administrator, or whoever's in charge of the visitations. Mom needs a compassionate care visit. They're required by law to provide those. Now, the intervals and the amount of time, it varies from location, but compassionate care visit term is key. So it can be very frustrating. It can be overwhelming. It's overwhelming for us as caregivers, overwhelming for the care recipients. It's just as overwhelming for the administration of the nursing homes and the assisted living. It's just as frustrating for the staff, the nurses, the nursing assistants. It's frustrating for them too. They can't keep up. The rules change so much. It's like, what's the rule today? Don't know. Let's all read the memo board somewhere. So be patient when you're trying to visit and schedule those visits. There's a lot of people trying to schedule those compassionate care visits, but keep in mind, they're not doing it to be mean. Yes, it's a rule. Yes, it's a law in many cases. The facility themselves could be fined, could receive some negative sanctions there, but ultimately they're doing it for the health and well-being, not just of your family member, but also for the staff. Everyone, whether it's the Uber driver or it's the, the Grubhub people, Amazon, but healthcare too has their shortage of workers. So be patient, be kind. Back to kindergarten, be kind. So the health of our loved ones is always their top priority. We might not like the rules, they don't like the rules either. But if you have issues with those rules, or you use the key term compassionate care visit and you don't get anywhere, then by all means, we have the long-term care ombudsman program, which I'm also a volunteer of. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the ombudsman program as well. But feel free. The office is located in Lucas County in downtown Toledo, but they cover a 10-county region. Wood County is one of those. So feel free to reach out to them, or like I said, I have my contact info. You're welcome to email me or ask me questions, or I'm happy to come back to the senior center and talk with people. If you have any questions for me or Salli, you're more than welcome to email us or give us a call. There's our contact information. And then also, if you need more resources or want to watch more videos on caregiving, I'm one of the board members for the Optimal Aging Institute at BGSU. You can find more information, you can find more videos. We have live Facebook streaming on a fairly regular basis, and then they get archived and YouTubed and all that fun social media stuff that I don't know what they do. That's what the students do. That's why we keep them. So any questions?
I'll go ahead and open it. If anyone has any questions on the online platform as well. All right. Well, just as a reminder, we will be sharing our Care Compass project information today, and the topic was technology and its impact on caregiving and managing holiday visits on our YouTube channel. So you can just look up Wood County Committee on Aging, Inc. and refer back to this to share with family and friends who weren't able to make it today. So once again, I want to take this opportunity to thank Carly Douch from the OT from the Wood County Board of DD here today to present on technology and its impact on caregiving, and then Salli and Jennifer as well. So thank you for your time today, everyone. And thank you for Brookdale for providing our lunches to our caregivers today. We look forward to seeing you in 2022. In February, we will have a new topic released shortly. Thank you, everyone. Perfect.